today's expectation in the financial markets is for a much more quicker returns. They are not willing to be so patient. So if you look at it from that perspective, the market feedback that we get is Rane should be capitalizing on its brand equity and quality image and all that, and growing more fast.
More than anything else, you have stayed away from controversies all those years, unlike many other groups upcountry. They are in news for so many other things as well.
Right.
Given the fact that you have gone ahead with your growth strategy in a very consolidated way, you have gone ahead, look for correct opportunities and then capitalize on them.
One thing we feel comfortable is that growth for the sake of top line alone should not be the approach. I think we get into businesses with a slightly different mindset, that we are in it to create some institutions, to create a long-term value. So from that point of view, we look very deep rather than just get into things for a very short term.
Does it hassle you if you are classified as a largely Madras group? But though we have a presence in Hyderabad, I don't know whether we have
We have not now.
North also now.
Yeah, we have a new plant in Bawal, Rane, a fairly large plant, and we have 3 plants now in Uttarakhand.
At this point in time, when everybody is going everywhere and competition is starting up, and you break out of the channel, does it an advantage or does it you feel an handicap there?
No, it's not an handicap. I think, see, in our industry today, as you know, being near to the customer, especially if you're tier 1 and you're handling large systems like steering systems, which are sensitive to transit and packing and things like that, electronics, some of it in the EPS we have electronics. So being near the customer has certain advantages. In India there are some disadvantages also. As you know, recent developments in Gurgaon and that area is causing a lot of concern. But essentially large customers, especially Japanese customers like Maruti Suzuki, want us to be near. So it has to be there. In terms of management bandwidth, we are trying to develop management bandwidth. Yes, some years ago you would have thought, can you manage a plant in Delhi, it's far away, how do you go logistics? But today I think we have come out of that stage where we are managing plants as far as Rudrapur, and that is a reality which we will have to accept. We will have to understand the local culture, many of the local sensitivities one has to understand, adopt to the local environment, but we are learning that. So that's not an issue anymore.
But in terms of your clients, so what the major among the top 3 who are the?
Today it would be Tata Motors still as number 1, Mahindra and Maruti will be our top 3 customers.
But you don't supply to the new?
We are supplying to the new customers. We are quite strongly present with Daimler for the truck project. We are supplying the power steering, manual steering linkages, steering column, engine valves and friction material. With Renault Nissan, we have just started on 1 or 2 products. On the friction material, we already started. The friction material, in fact, most of our businesses are coming from new Japanese customers because of a very strong technology coming from Nishinmo, Japan. So a lot of new business has come from people like Nissan, Toyota and Maruti Suzuki.
But what could be the mix between the old guys and like locally Indian guys and the new generation foreign guys?
See, as I said, Tata, because of their wide presence in commercial vehicle to passenger car, still remain as number 1 for us. Mahindra is becoming fast, they are growing fast, so they are number 2. We are fairly deeply entrenched in Mahindra with all their vehicles, both auto division and tractor division. So in terms of volume, Maruti is now becoming number 3 for us.
So, but what are the kind of readjustment or whatever adjustment you need to dealing with a Maruti or a Mahindra or a Nissan or
A homemade company and a foreign company that is setting up.
Is there a difference in the way you handle it or approach to that?
There is a difference, and that difference was brought to light, and in fact the entire auto component industry, I must say, learned a lot from Maruti Suzuki in terms of just-in-time delivery, essentially engaging with the vendor very early in the model development, so that you really go through all the initial hiccups well in time for the launch of the model. So once the model is launched, it is almost fault-free. You might still have 1 or 2 problems, but no major issues. So early involvement in model development is one thing which they brought in as a new system. So we have to gear ourselves so that their line doesn't stop. There is no more cushion available in terms of yard stock. How do you improve your process? How does one look at processes and improve so that you deliver consistent quality on a daily basis? So, creating the right kind of talent pipeline is one thing. And then developing the managers to take on responsibilities much earlier. Today, we have plant heads who are 34, 35, 36 kind of age group. So to prepare people with the kind of all-round exposure to run a plant independently at that age. So that means we have to be able to accelerate the exposure, the development. So we have to work on management and leadership pipeline, which is what we are doing now. One investment in defense and aerospace, we have taken a stake in a Bangalore-based company which is making wiring harness for both defense and aerospace, and it's a kind of a technocrat started company, and they were looking for corporate backing and finance to grow. Being a technocrat, he couldn't do that beyond a point. So he had a good business plan, and we are convinced about the background, the kind of cultural fit, and ethical values, etc. So after doing a lot of due diligence, we decided to partner with this company. We have taken a 26% equity with an option to increase in the future as the company grows. So we are also learning this new business because we are not experienced in this area. So what we thought was next 3 to 5 years, about 10% of our revenue can come from this area. This is what we are. Wherever it's a technology intensive and capital intensive business, what they do is the research and development investment, new product development, etc. is so expensive that it makes sense for a Suzuki or a Toyota to, let's say, deal with their supplier globally, or 1 or 2 suppliers globally, because the investment required, scaling up, etc. is one. Second, they are launching now models in 4 or 5 markets simultaneously. So therefore they want support for a same component, not just in India, but in China or in Russia or in Brazil. So these are a couple of reasons why wherever it is a technology intensive product, they prefer their own global supplier. Where it's a tier 2, like an engine valve or a brake lining or a disc pad or an aluminium casting, there I think we are on equal footing. Maybe we have a slight advantage being already in India. It is easier for us to develop. So I think tier 1 high technology products, this follow source principle continues.
So the 2.5 2,200 crores turnover, where are some exporting the component?
Yes, we last year we did about 15% export.
But you have to piggyback on this guys, or
partly we piggyback in the sense TRW, who's our partner, is a big customer of ours. We are exporting a lot of components to TRW, both in US, South America and Europe, which goes into their final assembly. But also directly, we export to Volkswagen directly, we export to Deutz and some off-highway vehicle manufacturers in the US, John Deere in the US. So we do some through our partners, some directly. We like to keep a portfolio so that we don't depend on one or two customers. So about 15% mainly to US and Germany. These are our main markets. We see a significant slowdown in Europe. Fortunately, US seems to be holding up. At least till last month, it has kind of held up. So surprisingly, US auto industry is doing quite well.
I mean, no, with regard to your exports, you talk about US and all now. In US, there's this trend about how cars are going green, so fuel efficiency, green tech, environment friendly. So I mean, is the Indian components industry ready for that? Is there anything different, when you export?
See, two things are happening. One is the IC engine technology itself. Within the IC engines, the environmental regulations are tightening. So every year, the states like California lead, and they bring down the emissions, number one, and they increase the mileage required, average mileage expected. So which means engines are becoming more efficient, which leads to better materials, better, if you take our own example, engine valves. Engine valves are becoming more closer tolerances, very tight finishes, very super finished surface to reduce friction. So there are changes happening in the design of the components. If you take friction material today in OEM, from almost 100% asbestos, we have now come to almost less than 15%. Only, in fact, we don't use asbestos in any OE business now. Only Indian aftermarket. Still, in the next 2 years, we will be coming out of that totally.
In the past, you have also mentioned that your expenditure on R&D as a part of the total revenues will go up from 0.5% to 1.5% at least. So, what are the steps being taken?
Each of the company has got a plan, both on capital and revenue. So, we have started working on this in terms of improving our testing facilities, more advanced. For example, to give you an example, in Rane brake linings, we've had dynamometers where we can check the life of the brake lining or the brake pad, the noise level, wear and tear, etc. But now the latest one, we are investing in a NVH dynamometer. So it's a very sophisticated one where you can simulate the external environment. So right from say minus 40 degrees, if the car is going to be sold in Canada or some market like that, to let's say 40 degrees plus, if the vehicle is going to be sold in the Middle East or somewhere in Arabia or somewhere like that. So it's a very sophisticated kind of a dynamometer. We have, just to give you an example, this year we are installing one of that. In Rane Madras, we have again gone for, today in steering and other components, noise has become a big issue because the vehicles are becoming so efficient, the engines are becoming so quiet. So the noise which was accepted 3 years ago, today drivers are very sensitive. So steering, a noise which you and I will not hear, today customers are measuring and saying we want to reduce it. So we are going for a, where we can even to measure that noise, we need specialized equipment, etc. We planned, each company was planning something like 15, 20%, 25% growth. And the way things are turning out, we'll be happy if we end up with 10% growth. Some product lines are flat in the first 6 months because there's a huge shift. For example, engine valves were done very badly because not only the market has slowed down, there is a huge shift from petrol to diesel, and we got caught by surprise. Models which are selling like hotcakes, customers are not buying today. Motorcycles, where we have not seen a slowdown, for years, for a decade. First time 2 months we are seeing August and September a negative growth. So what I'm saying is, to be able to go through these humps, if you are too stretched, then the pressure on management increases. You get into panic situation. your rating goes down, banks start putting pressure. So it's a fine balance one has to keep. But we found that being a little comfortable helps you to go through, say, 6 months or 1 year of tough times without panicking too much. That's only.